Good. Okay, great. So my name is Andrea Dobre. I'm the head of internal audit at GreenTube. I have 11 years of experience in the gambling industry, player protection, AML, mostly operational. For the past 6 years, well, feels like 6, but there's only 5. For the past 5 years, I've been setting up the internal audit department at GreenTube, we specialize in regulatory audits, specifically on that. I have with me an amazing set of panelists with expert knowledge in these topics. They will help me navigate these subjects. I will ask you to introduce yourselves, ladies.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and thank you for the introduction. Firstly, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's my first time at the conference, and the opportunity to join this panel with you, such a beautiful and amazing ladies. A little bit about myself. I'm a lawyer based in Romania. I'm working with Baciu Partners, and I'm part of the gambling team with focus on the AML compliance and also data privacy. And I hope we are going to make an interesting panel for you today.
Hi, my name is Justyna Grusza-Głębicka. I'm really glad to be here. I'm a lawyer. I have my own law firm based in 2 cities in Poland, Warsaw and Białystok. My main specialization is gambling law, also compliance, especially AML details. And also I'm dealing with audits with my professional experience. Also I'm PhD, so my doctoral dissertation topic was gambling law, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Of course, from my side also. I'm really happy to share the stage with you and also to get to know you up front, of course. I'm Birgit Strausberger from GreenTube. I bring 10 years of knowledge from the telecom industry, additionally 10 years in the gambling industry, and for 4 years now I lead the technical compliance department at GreenTube.
Great, thank you so much. Amazing knowledge and expertise right here. So I am really excited to delve deeper into these topics that we have at hand. Just for the ones of you who might not know what audits are, they are like health checkups for the company. But instead of checking for the physical health of the company, we check rules, regulations, processes, risks to make sure that the risks that the company are undertaking are still in the lines of the risk appetite that our board of directors choose. That is the one that they want to tolerate. Good. What we also do is we ask what I call them as the naughty questions. It's better for us to come in and ask those direct questions to identify the root cause and what's not going right, rather than for example, a regulator to come in and ask the same questions. Good. Okay. So if you have any questions at any point, please interrupt us. We want to make this a conversation rather than us speaking like this. And we also want you to take practical insights from this conversation. Good. So let's set the stage. What's happening this year in the regulatory framework? What trends are shaping up? And what are some of the challenges that the operators are facing? Justyna, let's go to you.
Yeah, we have a lot of new regulations at the European Union level. I'm talking about new AML package, I'm talking about MiCA, and also AI Act, which is very actual topic. I can say that MiCA is about making more clear KYC procedures and transaction verification in, of course, cryptocurrency market. So this is important shift because for now cryptocurrencies were like somewhere which we can't actually touch and verify, and right now those regulations may make it actual clear. And what is interesting that European Commission recently gave some guidelines connected with AI Act about prohibited practical aspects. For example, they gave some tips connected with these prohibited behaviors, like you can't make some harmful manipulation, like connected in gambling industry, for example, in advertising, when you put some flash, you can't explore vulnerabilities, human vulnerabilities. You can't social scoring, you can't build systems which have some kind of emotion recognition. It's prohibited to make crime prediction because, AI can be some kind of manipulative and discriminating in this context. You can't collect of biometric data, so those are important information for entities who are dealing with AI. Of course, there are some exceptions connected with national security, with jurisdiction and personal, non-professional activities. So, and of course we have fines for breaking these rules, and they are very high, like 35 millions of euros for prohibited behavior. So we need to be familiar with these guidelines. What I can say about challenges in the industry, we can clearly see international cooperation. So we have a lot of activities which make some kind of movements between a lot of countries at the European Union level. We have standardization of global regulation. A lot of European Union acts, they are applicable directly, so we don't need to implement it in our country order, and this is very significant in the context of global regulation. And we also observe use of technology, especially in audits, when AI is just helping to make it more faster, more effectively. So, yeah, those are challenges I wanted to highlight.
Thank you. Adela?
On top of what Justina just said, I would like to mention a trend I see. Actually, I don't see it. It's actually happening because it's part of the AML package for 2025. And I'm talking about the MLA, European Authority, which is supposed to centralize and harmonize the legislation in this area. Firstly, because this authority is going to have supervisory responsibilities directly towards high-risk entities. And from this perspective, the authority is entitled to conduct all the types of investigations, to request for documentation directly from the entities and not through the national offices, AML offices. And of course, is entitled to apply fines, which can go up to 10% of the previous year turnover of the company. It's important to mention that also that the AML authority is also going to have responsibilities regarding the harmonization of the legislation with the national legislation in order to ensure a uniform application of the MLA regulation across all member states.
Good. Actually, sorry, Birgit, before I go to you, regarding trends that are shaping up connected to the AML authority, we already see regulations such as the Spanish regulation, the German regulation, that already require annual, at least regular audits on the AML subject. So we can see it more and more in the regulations that audits are required by the regulators. What about you, Birgit, from an operator perspective?
Yeah, I covered the more technical perspective here. Also from my side, the challenge, also we have heard it from both of you, and you already gave all the insights here. We also heard it in all the other panels, in all the master classes. For me, from technical point of view, one of the challenges is AI. To work on really automating standard processes to save time, to save resources. And of course, but we should not forget the human oversight. That's very important. Because only humans can detect suspicious patterns, strange behaviors. This is in my area where I see the most challenges this year.
Good, thank you so much. That brings us to a key question. How are these increasingly stringent regulations affecting the industry's bottom line? Adela, let me ask you, what's the impact of these changes on the competitiveness and profitability of the gambling operators?
Yes, obviously there are very important impacts which can affect both in a negative and in a positive way the gambling operators. And obviously the first one that pops up is the one negative aspect that it's supposed to increase the cost for compliance. Being or getting compliant is expensive nowadays. But operators must also understand that they have to heavily invest in infrastructure, and they have to include advanced KYC technologies. They have to train their personnel in order to fully get compliant. Also, there are some other negative aspects such as higher player friction and abandonment rates, because it's getting quite difficult to keep your players happy. As long as at the point they start the onboarding process or they proceed with withdrawals, they are facing very frustrating KYC procedures. And that's why you have to be transparent and to explain them very clear and precise why those KYC measures are needed and how they are supposed to be applied in order to prevent fraud, because this is the ultimate purpose. Also, there are the regulatory fines and the reputational risk that operators are facing, and taking into consideration that non-compliance can result and can conduct in substantial fines. As we have seen recently, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of this month in UK, bookmaker was fined for a substantial amount for non-compliance with the AML obligations. And of course, there are the restriction regarding certain payment methods, and I'm referring especially to the cryptocurrency methods, because obviously you have to consider those payment methods as high-risk payment methods. But on the other side, even though there are quite some negative aspects, as it may seem, there are also some positive. And as long as operators do comply with the AML framework, they get more and more competitive. They strengthen and they enhance their position towards their business partner, towards their players, their clients.
Thank you. Actually, you're making very good points. But I also think this is why it's important to have these internal reviews and audits in general, because when it comes to stringent regulations that change all the time, that add on more requirements for us as operators, it's very important to make sure that the controls we add in order to be compliant, they make sense and they don't put too much pressure on ourselves, but we still can use them to be compliant. Good. Now, one of the biggest areas where operators feel the pressure is AML and KYC compliance, striking the right balance between security, regulatory requirements, and a smooth user experience. I'm sure all of you have something interesting to contribute here. How can we effectively balance these compliance requirements with a seamless user experience? And how is AI helping, the keyword, or how, and I like this question, how can AI complicate the process? Let's go with Justina.
I believe AI tools are the most powerful to balance these KYC procedures with users' experiences. Of course, they are making verification much more easier, faster. They have a lot of data, so there is no need to lengthy manual checks. This reduces onboarding time and minimizes customer drop-off rates. Also, I believe we can make some kind of risk-based KYC approach. It means that if we have some transactions which are low risk, then we are making lower checks. Yeah? If some player is putting low deposits, then it's not necessary to verify everything and in a strong way. If we have transactions which are much more higher, bigger amount, then the verification should be appropriate. So much more stronger, much more in details. So we have those steps which makes user experience better, especially when you put small deposits. It's much more easier for users. And I believe what can change user experience is use of digital identity verification. If you can just integrating this in gambling platform, I believe verification can be faster and much more secure. So it can help a lot, and it's something operators definitely should consider.
Yeah, from a technical perspective, you're absolutely right. So we can really make the authentication and verification process smoother, more effective, also save time and resources. But of course, as you also mentioned, we have to check which AI tools we are using. Really, these can be complex implementations. We could have false positive results. So human oversight and the right AI tools is definitely the key word here. But Andrea, let me also add something to the user experience, because this was part of your question. Because in our company, platform compliance or technical compliance also includes product design. So I very often have discussed recently with my team how we can make it easier for customers and how we can make the user experience, although we use all these mechanisms in the background, easier to understand these processes, authentication, verification processes. And what we should do is definitely make it easy for them to really pre-fill information, to communicate clearly and simple, and tell them everything, why we need certain information and why certain systems work like that. And of course, talk to them, make user tests, or invite the customers for interviews. And they really tell you how they feel and what they understand and what they do not understand, and how we can really, from a user perspective, change the process or make it better.
AI also can create some dangers, yes, and we need to know that AI can be discriminative, it can manipulate some information, and it really counts what kind of data are put inside AI tools, yeah? What kind of data are we using to build these AI systems? So there is a lot of opportunities, but we need to be careful and also watch the dangers of using it.
And I will also like to add that obviously, even though all those AI tools are recommended and advisable, they should be used with precaution. Also from GDPR perspective, because as long as you perform the KYC process, you also perform data processing. And that's why you have to clearly inform your players and to give them all the information, and also to educate them and to reassure them that you're using those data in a safer way, in compliance with the AML regulation, but also with other regulations such as GDPR or AI Act.
Good. You are all making amazing points. I think here that the keyword is a risk-based approach and an umbrella overview. We need to take into consideration not necessarily just how AI is helping us, but also what are the circumstances around it. We all know that automated controls are much more reliable than manual controls. However, automated controls will need to be monitored by a human or any sort of internal control to ensure that the automation, the model doesn't change, or the requirements or the nature surrounding it doesn't change. It could be that we have this automated control, and I've seen this in my previous experience. There's one automated control, and then somebody makes a change, a technical change somewhere in the system that affects our automated control. We always need to be aware of what's happening. Good. So we've covered the external pressures, but what about internal safeguards? Many companies think of audits as just another regulatory hoop that they need to jump through. But when done right, and I'm a little biased, they can be a powerful tool of raising ahead of compliance risks. So let's talk about this. How can audits help gambling operators straighten their AML efforts, or just in general? Let's start with you, Birgit.
Yeah, let me give you the technical compliance perspective again here. I'm second line of defense, so my role is crucial in overlooking the regulatory requirements and especially the implementations. And some parts where audits can help some of you might feel caught, it's common sense, but it happens on a daily basis. Number one is the proper documentation. So we do implementations, we update them, there are new regulations in place, we change the implementation, nobody keeps the documentation up to date, nobody knows what's implemented. Then we have some checks from regulators and everything is not properly done. So audits can really have a proper look if everything is there, if all the audit logs are kept, the certifications are available. So this is definitely one of the things that constantly happens. Also, roles and responsibilities. One team thinks the other team is doing this, one person thinks the other person is doing it, and then we really have gaps that some things are just not covered, overlooked, wrongly interpreted, and an audit can really see those gaps and make us aware of it, and then we can fix it. Also, as I really talk to developers on a daily basis, the training there is important. It's although we do a lot also in our company, we constantly hear and see that they don't get how crucial it really is and how much trouble it really is if we implement something differently. They always want to go, of course, down the quick road and quick fix, and their audits can really help to check if the people are aware and if they are trained and know what's going on and how important this is. Then from third-party tools, I also want to mention here, because when the law is changing so constantly, and also at GreenTube we are operating in more markets, and of course we need tools that really are robust and can cover all the markets. And then also let's quickly implement it, and then we forget to check the contracts, the monitoring. Are these third-party tools really compliant? And there are also audits can have a closer look if everything works out. Also, that brings me to my next topic, to the risk metrics. So also when I work with developers, they hardly see risks. And then you tell them, let's quickly write something down, and then we have this basic list that is never been followed up. So audits can help here as well to check, are they aware of the risks? And are they aware that when something changes and they change the implementation, that also the risks change? And do they constantly, periodically review them to really make them aware and also check on this? What is also important, of course, is also quite what audits are generally doing to check all the policies, if they're in place, if people know about it. But one last topic comes to my mind is, because I see this will become the norm, the real-time reporting. Because only when we have real-time reporting in place, we see the suspicious patterns and the suspicious behaviors, and their audits can also help to see, are they really working out? Are they effective? Is it really how it should be?
Thank you. Justina?
Audits can help identifying gaps in AML and KYC procedures. We have a lot of regulations, and they are changing and changing. So we need to check whatever something is there which we need to notice, and we need to make some kind of procedures on that. We make, if we need to make some kind of new regulations contributing to that. And I can repeat what Brigitte actually said, that establish a policy is once, but then this policy needs to work with your company, yeah? Because with years, they need to be suitable to this company. And we see what works, what doesn't work, and we need to change it the way best suit to this actually company. And another thing which I want to highlight is that audits helps implementing best industry practices. So we as an auditors can compare a lot of politics, a lot of companies' cultures, and we can give some advice how to do it in the best way. This is important to have best industry practices. We are in very sensitive industry, so we need to be careful about what kind of message we send to the world, and it's very important to take care about opinion, and best practices is something we need to be careful about also.
Great.
I would also like to mention about this topic that I think audits are also relevant from the human resource perspective, because usually during audits you're not taking only interviews with the top management, you are interacting with also with other type of personnel, and you have to make sure your staff is well prepared and have a solid ground of knowledge regarding AML compliance.
Thank you, Adela. Yes, actually, everything you're saying kind of feeds into what I have to say. One thing that I absolutely love about my job is the mission that we have as an internal audit function, which is adding value. That's what we are doing. We have the amazing regulatory people that are making sure that we are compliant. We have commercial people who are making sure that we are there from a financial perspective. Well, when internal audit comes into place, we have an umbrella overview. So we're not just looking at compliance. We want to make sure that we are covered when it comes to risk coming from compliance, but we also want to make sure that our processes are efficient, that they are effective, that nothing redundant is in place. So we come from that perspective. We also have a systematic approach. So what we do at GreenTube, we have assurance services where we take a regulation, we make a gap analysis, and then we check if the policy is effective and if the application of the policy is in line with what it says. So we do a dual approach. We take sampled accounts that fit in the best way to the specific internal control, and we try to see where the gaps are. And this is part of our adding value, right? We try to see where we can improve the system. And then we offer a second side, which is the consulting services. And this is when we work together with stakeholders to improve their readiness for external audits, where we identify certain issues that could be within the culture of the company, or, for example, raising awareness on risk assessments, which I think it's quite important. This is the direction that we're going to towards a more risk-based approach. We see it in AML, we see it in player protection everywhere, and I think it should be done also at the entity level and we should put more importance on it. And because we have the systematic approach, you can use our reports to prove your compliance, to prove that you have a compliant mindset, because everything is based on evidence and factual information. Good, okay. For companies that have never been audited, the idea of preparing one can feel overwhelming. Adela, what's your opinion? How can operators get ready for the audit?
Firstly, the key point here is that I think operators don't have to wait to be audited, and they don't have to wait for the notice. Instead, they have to be prepared and to be aware of the fact that an audit is not only a formal verification, it's actually a measure of your AML compliance standard. And firstly, I think it's very important to start with a self-assessment and to review all your AML practices and procedures to check whether those are, the written procedures are actually enforceable in practice, and if they match your day-by-day activity. It's also important to explain and justify why the decision you took for some high-risk players and why you took them. And also it's important for you to assess whether your staff is trained and well prepared from this perspective. Additionally, I think you can assess your readiness by making sure all your documents are in order, and to make or to establish day-by-day practice by having all your procedures updated and version controlled, by having customer risk assessments updated as well, by keeping records of suspicious activity reports. It's also important to not only rely on technology and to overlook every decision you make in this regard, because it's not enough to have very performant AI and to use very performant AI tools if you don't have a human oversight to actually explain your decision process and to explain your risk approach. It's also important, as I mentioned before, to train your staff, to properly train them, to assess their awareness and their knowledges about AML compliance. And I think one of the most important points is also to work with your auditor and not against it. That means to offer him all the information you have, not to be reluctant when he asks for certain documentation or procedures where you don't feel very comfortable about giving them.
Great, thank you so much, Adela. This brings me to another important question. What are the biggest compliance risks that operators might overlook, Justina?
So first, I want to mention that, in my opinion, it might be inadequate documentation and reporting of suspicious transactions. I will give you some real example from our country, from Poland. There is always a dilemma for compliance officers, whether they should report some transaction or no. Because in one hand, this is some kind of profit for the company, and they don't want to hinder customer. Yeah. In other hand, we have these regulations, compliance regulations, and we need to stay compliant. So there was a case in Poland where government noticed that someone stole government money and then they were used for betting. And of course it was high amount, but no one reported that. And they discovered this transaction, and of course they wanted to make some kind of responsibility to persons who weren't obeying regulations. So it was sad case because in one hand you need to remember that company always have their responsibility, even if they delegate some things to other professional service or they have special worker for this area. So company had a fine, and also this person who were compliance officer have a case in Poland, criminal case. So this is not a joke. We need to be careful about reporting and set up some rules in this area. Also, documentation needs to be very detailed. We need to prove whatever we obey all these regulations. And I can also say about managing risks in international transactions, because we have a lot of common areas, international, but we have a lot of differences. So we need to be careful and stay compliant with all these regulations which are detailed in different countries. So basically, this is my point of view.
Good, thank you.
I will also like to mention that in Romania, the landscape is pretty much the same as described by Justina, meaning that I was surprised to find out during some audits with my clients that even though they were operating on the market for a couple of years, they have never submitted an STR, even unless it was mandatory, but otherwise they wanted to preserve their relationship with the client instead of being compliant.
Thank you, Adela. Good. Now, even when the operators think that they're ready for audits, they might not always go smoothly. In my opinion, one of the first things that should be done in order to ensure that the audit itself will be a successful one is, like you said, to do that readiness check, but also to take the policy itself, look what procedures are within the policy and see, okay, are they implemented? Has anything changed? And make sure that you do know what the policy states. I know it sounds such a easy thing. How can I forget? No, it happens, of course, especially when we regularly update a part of the policy and we don't really look at the rest of it. So just have a read through before an audit to ensure that that you are aware of what's happening, of course. And it's also the understanding of internal controls. We at GreenTube, we have a compliance framework called the 3 lines of defense. We have the first line of defense, who is the executive, the executive department, the operational department. We have the second line of defense, who are compliance experts and risk management experts. And we have the third line of defense, who is us, the internal audit as well as external assurance providers. And as you can see, the internal controls, they are checked all throughout this 3 lines of defense model. So it's very important that there's an awareness of how these internal controls are working, what they're aiming to do, so you can take advantage of these defense lines from the first all the way to the third. Okay, good. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from each of you. If regulations were a TV show, would they be a drama, a thriller, or a comedy? Adela, do you want to start?
Yes, this is a funny question. Up to me, I don't know for sure what it's going to be. I would say more like a thriller with a sprinkle of legal drama, because it has
Grey's Anatomy.
It has, exactly. It has all the actors in there. It has plot twists regarding the legislation. It has all types of villains. And of course, we have the regulator who is watching every step you take. But for sure, it's not going to be a movie that it's going to end very soon. It's an ongoing process, and we are waiting to see what's happening in the future.
It's the type of movie you'll have to binge watch, right? Because it's going to be like 20, 30 seasons, some sort of soap opera. Okay, Justina.
In my opinion, this is drama, really.
Or horror.
We are over-regulated, yes. Like, what's going on? Just leave us some space, yes? Of course, I'm happy because I have a job this way, because we are over-regulated. But on the other hand, I believe this is a serious problem for all entrepreneurs, yes? They need to follow so much regulations. And come on, let's take it easy. So stop the drama. We need to have some comfortable space here, and we need to have some space for business moves, which counts when it comes to profits. Thanks.
Thank you. Birgit?
I was thinking, but I think I go with the thriller, because I'm, again, from the technical perspective, the thriller is exciting, has plot twists, as you said. There could be a good and a bad end, and this is how I see all these developments in AML, KYC. We have, of course, risks we have to take care of, but of course there are also opportunities, and we can make all these implementations can help to make everything stronger, faster, more effective. So, okay, let's go with the thriller.
Exactly. This challenges is what inspires innovation and what also makes us better at being adaptive, right? Yes. Good. Okay, I'm going to leave it up to you to ask us anything you might want. Any questions at all about audits? No. Okay.
Maybe not about audit, but just one question, especially for ladies from GreenTube. How you manage needy payment providers? Do you set up any boundaries? Do you have any, let's say, documentation that you don't want to provide, especially when it comes to financial reports and these things? So, because me personally, I had a lot of experience with operators. They just stop providing documents that we need in order to continue the process. I'm 100% sure that you're doing that right. I'm just thinking, because I didn't have a chance to work a lot with you. What is your take on that?
I'm not sure. I personally am not involved in that process. Birgit, do you know?
Me neither. It's the payments department that takes care. I just support the audits. There is some PCI audits, whatever. But this is really the payments department. But as you said, I'm sure we're doing it right. So.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, you got the wrong GreenTube ladies. And it's our only question. But we can definitely get back after the panel and we can discuss. We can get the information for you.
I can recommend you to call your lawyer, and definitely he will give you an advice in this regard.
It's not about lawyers, so I'm just saying that a lot of operators, they're not willing to provide, even like the operators with a regular license, local licenses, they're not willing to provide all documents that we need in order to process the payment. So I'm actually collaborating with you guys, but two partners, with Andre. So maybe your take on that as well. From the Romanian market, let's say, if you know anything about it, of course. Maybe it's not a right address, as lady said.
Yes, I have the same perspective, because to be honest, we did not face those type of challenges so far.
Thank you. Good. Okay, then. This, for me, again, I'm biased. This has been such a valuable discussion, and I hope that we left you with some practical insights into the world of audits. I want to thank Hipter and our incredible panelists for sharing their insights today. Let's take that question off the panel, and if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to continue the discussion with us. Thank you.